Everyone today is talking about Zoom. We are in a Zoom meeting, and the hot topic these days seems to be Zoom is not secure. Everyone is talking about how Zoom can be hacked. Zoom, whatever you say on Zoom can be taken away. Today I'm going to talk about how we can address that. So let me start by sharing my screen. So before we start the session, here are some ground rules for you. Make sure that your microphone is on mute mode so that we don't disturb the others. If possible, video could be on or off, it's up to you, as long as it is not distracting. If you have any questions, please raise your hands and I will try to address them at the end. And make sure that you know how to exit from your home safely. Now, do you believe Zoom is secure or not secure? Do you think it is very secure, somewhat secure? You think it is not secure? Just your impressions, or you don't have any idea. And to start that, let's have a small poll. And I want to see, what do you think of the security of Zoom? I'll give you 30 seconds to submit your poll. And we have quite a number of you all voting. And I will finish or end the polling in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let me share the results with you. This is what you are thinking, that Zoom is somewhat secure. And there are a number of you all who think Zoom is not secure. And probably my session today will be targeted at those people to move them at least to somewhat secure. And there are a number of people who have no idea, and hopefully at the end of the session, you will have some idea about the security of Zoom and whether you can use Zoom in your Toastmaster meetings. Remember, in Toastmaster meetings, we are not disclosing sensitive information like military, unless you all are. But I'm assuming a Toastmaster meeting is generally not so secure. Now, let me go back to my sharing. And so we have seen that the poll puts most of you all at number 2. Before we dive into it, I just want to give a brief about myself. As Hazim has already introduced, I'm an IT professional. I'm also a very passionate Toastmaster and a photographer. Some people do say I'm actually a good photographer. That's up for debate. I am a good scuba diver though, because if I was not good, I would be at the bottom of the ocean. I wouldn't be able to come up. And I am a certified trainer. And I believe in the adage that if you want to be good at something, you must teach others. So because I want to learn more about Zoom security, I decided to create this training session. Now, I want to think of security as an onion. Not that it is smelly, and not that it's expensive, which it is these days, and very hard to find also. But I'm thinking of onions as layers. Now, most of you all probably, when you all want to join a Zoom meeting, you all download Zoom, you create a meeting, you start the meeting, but you don't really try to understand how the system is structured. If you want to look at security, think of security as an onion of set of layers. For example, if you were having some very expensive jewelry in your house and you want to keep it safe, you will have set of locks before somebody can reach that. For example, if you're not at home, Somebody who wants to steal it first has to open your main door. If he can open that, maybe then he has to open the bedroom door, which is also locked. If he can open that, then he has to open the cupboard, which we also hope is locked. And if he can do that, then the safe in which the jewelry is stored should also be unlocked. So if you have this set of layers to reach, then it becomes that much difficult to take away that jewelry. I give an example, like in New Zealand, people always say, we keep our houses open. Why do they do that? Because the incidence of theft is very low. They see the benefit of keeping, not worrying about security, because nobody bothers to steal it, anything there. But if they found out that people are stealing, you think they'll still leave their doors open? No, they will stop. And this is the whole story about Zoom security, that in the beginning, they wanted to make it easy for people to use Zoom, so they kept everything open. But if you want to secure a Zoom, you can do it. And how do we look at security of Zoom? Think of, as I said, as a onion that I just explained to you as layers. So we have the first setting, which is the Zoom settings, where you go and put the first layer, the first lock around your meetings. Then you start creating your meetings. And in the meeting also, you can set up a layer so that it becomes that much difficult for somebody to come and hack into your Zoom meetings. Then you have some controls while running the meeting itself, as I have in front of me, again to control the security. And then you have your actual meeting, which means if a hacker wants to really break into your Zoom meeting, he has to pass through all of these layers before he can reach your meeting and do some damage. So let's go through these 3 steps, how we can secure our Zoom settings, our meeting settings, and our in-meeting controls. So the first thing you need to do is to control the passwords for your Zoom meetings. Wherever possible, keep the meeting secure so that somebody just doesn't enter a 9-digit number and enter a meeting. The easier it is to enter a meeting, the easier it becomes to hack. So now what we can do is we can ensure that the first step, now this is what you will do in your Zoom settings, that you need a password when you're scheduling a new meeting. You require a password for instant meetings. You need a password for your personal meetings. So wherever possible, try to ensure password is a necessity, okay? And this is very important. Embed passwords in meeting link for one-click join. If you do that, you might have noticed whenever we send you a meeting links, you can just click on that and you can join the meeting without entering any password, because the password is embedded into your meeting link. But if you remove this setting, if you go and say, no, don't embed it, when you send the link out to somebody, they will get that link without the password. That means you should try the 2-step method. You send the link, but then you send the password to those who you trust, who are going to be joining the meeting. If you embed the password inside your meeting, it means anybody can join. It defeats the purpose of having a password in the first place. Once you set up your password control, let's talk about why Zoom became so security conscious. Basically, what happened is that people would come into a Zoom meeting like this, and anybody is allowed to share by default. So they would, something called Zoom bombing. They would click share and share inappropriate content. It could be pictures, it could be something. And this is what really made Zoom sort of unpopular these days, because somebody would find a meeting link for a class, students class. They would go in, they'll find all the students, they could join easily, they could share, and display anything they want. We call it Zoom bombing, right? So what you want to do is you want to ensure that nobody can just come, click on the share screen and share inappropriate content. And you do that by putting some controls in your settings, which is who can share. And if you say host only, that means the people who are controlling the meeting are the only people responsible for sharing. Others will not be able to share. And if you can't share, of course, you can't hack, you can't Zoom bomb, as they say. So this is how you will do it. You will make it host only, and that's it. Your meeting is secure. Even if anybody managed to enter the first door, now they can't go into the second door because that is locked. The other things I would advise to keep your meeting secure is to disable annotations, disable whiteboard, and disable remote control. Because if you allow people to annotate, annotation is where when I share something, you are able to do something on the screen. You can draw, you can put some pictures, and sometimes put inappropriate content while I'm sharing. So you want to stop that, so you can stop the annotation. And in reality, to run this meeting, I have done that. If you try to annotate something on the screen, you will find that you are not able to do it, because that's what I have done. But if I wanted to demonstrate it in a real training session, I would probably have more time. I would go back and I would say, allow annotation, and show you how you could Zoom bomb this meeting and use annotations to basically show something which is not suitable, for example. So annotations, disable them. Whiteboard, disable them if you want it make secure. And also you could disable the desktop sharing. That means whenever you're sharing something, allow them to share only a specific application. Like they want to show PowerPoint, allow them to show PowerPoint only, but not the entire desktop. Because if you show the entire desktop, you would see a lot of stuff which is on his desktop, and you don't want to do that. Suddenly expose the content of somebody's desktop inadvertently for the whole audience. So best is to restrict it to a particular application. So these are the settings. And finally, file transfer. Disable file transfer, because this is the only way you can get malicious viruses or code, because what you will do is you'll share an exe file in your chat. I have disabled it. You can't post any files now in the chat. You can only type text. But if you allowed, by default it is on, I could just post some file and say, hey, just click on this. It's a beautiful thing. And you click on it and your computer is now suddenly infected with a virus. So immediately go and stop the file sharing. And recently, about last week back, because of all the security concerns, Zoom has rolled out a new update which allows you to sort of select where your data will be stored, which data center of Zoom. They have multiple data centers. You don't like China, you think your data will be stolen or snooped upon by Chinese agents. Stop your data going into China, stop your data going to Hong Kong, keep it to the countries that you trust, and they will ensure that it happens and your data moves only there. The next thing I would like to talk about is the meeting settings. That is, when you're creating a meeting, also you need to pay very close attention of what you want to do. For example, if you want to make your meeting very secure, enable registration. If you enable registration, then you can control who comes to your meeting or no. It's no longer just a link. They have to register. Then you can look at the registration. You can approve the registration. You can reject the registration, which means that's the most secure way of getting people inside your meeting, using registration process. Again, though you have enabled passwords in your settings, some meetings you can disable them. So it's like you closed one door, but then you allow them to open another door. But try to retain the locks. You created the first lock, try to keep that lock in the second stage also. And other things that you can do is you can make sure that there is a waiting room, so that when the people come in, you can check who's coming and then ask them questions, because you can always ask people who are you? Can you name yourself properly? And then admit them into the main session. So enabling waiting room is another way of restricting or securing your Zoom meetings. And if you want a further security, you can say authenticated users only, which means you must have a Zoom account before you are allowed to enter the meeting. So these are the next level of meeting controls. And finally, you are in a meeting. The meeting is going on. Also, we can control a lot of things. In fact, about 2 weeks back, Zoom rolled out this button. This did not exist when we first started doing our meetings, especially with Didi Wafa. We started a Zoom training. This button did not exist as a security button. But what they have done is they have basically taken all the security which is lying here and there and could be very confusing, and they have brought it into one place. So just with one click, you can start securing your meeting. You can say, everyone is in attendance. We don't want any more people to join. We don't want anybody to disturb us. Click lock. The meeting gets locked. Nobody else can join. Now you can continue your meeting in peace. Again, as I said, it's the third level. Even though while creating the meeting, you had enabled the waiting room, you can enable, disable as per your requirements while the meeting is going on. So it's like a third stage lock. Same way, share screen. Remember in your original settings, you said only host can share. But now again, you can start playing around and say, allow sharing, allow not to share. And the same thing comes to chat. You might have noticed that I was controlling at some point you couldn't chat, at some point you could chat. So when a speech is going on, for example, you could disable chat. Like in contests that we were holding, when the contest was going on, we would always ensure chat is disabled. Okay. And similarly, you can ask people to rename themselves yes or no. So once you have made sure that everybody's names are correct, you can disable the rename themselves so that nobody can change their names and pretend to be somebody they are not. So these are the various settings that can be done at 3 stages, which is in your Zoom settings, when you're creating the meeting, and finally in the meeting itself. In summary, secure your Zoom settings, go through them each one by one and start locking things up. They are not locked. That doesn't mean Zoom is not secure. That means you have not taken the initiative to secure it. Okay. Next, when you're creating the meeting, ensure all the security controls are in place. Don't make it an insecure meeting. And finally, be aware of the meeting controls that you have, that you can enable, disable anytime while the meeting is going on. These three layers of the onion finally gives you a secure meeting. And now if the hacker tries to enter this, no. Now we can say Zoom is secure. Okay. So in conclusion, Zoom, as you said, is somewhat secure. It is actually a bit higher than that. It is secure. By default, the system was designed to be very easy for anybody, grandma, grandpa. They could just download the app and join any meeting with their family. It was not created with the corporate structure in mind, but internally it has all of the controls. You just, as a person managing this meeting, just need to understand where you need to go and fix those controls to make it from simple to a secure meeting. And that is how you secure Zoom meetings. Due to time restrictions, I will end my meeting. And in reality, it could be even longer with hands-on training where I could demonstrate each and every screen, but it can't be done in 20. I just wanted to give you a flavor and the message that if you want a secure meeting, you should make the effort to make it secure. Over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you very much. What a